Virus expert calls for quicker provision of vaccines after students' flu death. All 20 living Israeli hostages released, as hundreds of Palestinians are also being freed. And Donald Trump implies it will all be fine with China when it comes to tariffs. Hello, you're watching TVB News. I'm Melissa Hekalea. A 13-year-old girl passed away in hospital yesterday following an influenza B infection. An infectious diseases specialist said this season's influenza virus is spreading rapidly and the government should consider liaising with pharmaceutical companies to provide vaccines more quickly. Samantha Lee has the details.
The 13-year-old attended TWGH Wong Feng Ling College in Ma On Shan, where many pupils put their masks on when heading to the school this morning, with some already receiving seasonal flu vaccines. Their school has taken extra precautionary measures, such as undergoing a thorough cleansing and cancelling morning assembly. Some students expressed their condolences by leaving bouquets of white flowers on the deceased desk. This student said she couldn't stop crying, adding that almost every classmate was shocked to hear about the death. Another student recounted visiting her classmate at the hospital and seeing her being insulted with many plastic tubes in bed. She said it was so sad to see how the girl suffered. The deceased was vaccinated under the government's 2024-25 vaccination program, but did not receive the jab for the current influenza season. It was because the school arranged the vaccination for next month. Meanwhile, at least 3 more students in the school also developed slight symptoms of flu. Advisory Committee on Communicable Diseases of the Hong Kong Medical Association, Dr. Zhang Kai-yan, said this season's influenza virus is spreading rapidly when compared to previous years. He believed the government should consider liaising with pharmaceutical companies to provide vaccines quicker in order to keep pace with the current situation. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
Hamas released all 20 remaining living hostages today as part of a ceasefire, pausing 2 years of war that pummeled the Gaza Strip, killing tens of thousands of Palestinians. The releases came as President Donald Trump was in Israel to celebrate the U.S.-brokered ceasefire and hostage deal, an agreement that he declared had effectively ended the war. Nazvi Karim with more.
Crowds cheer in Tel Aviv as the news come through that some of the hostages have been released. Einav Zangwaka, the mother of Israeli hostages Matan, speaks with her son for the first time in 2 years. And the arrival of the man who Israelis hail as their hero, US President Donald Trump. Greeting the man who is being vilified by many Israelis, their own Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who was roundly booed at a recent rally when his name was mentioned by US envoy Steve Witkoff. One fan riding a Trump-mobile at a Tel Aviv welcoming party.
I would like to thank President Trump, Mr. Steve Witkoff, and the entire U.S. administration. You have made history. You have stood beside us, beside our families when we needed it most.
Hamas initially released 7 living hostages. By the middle of Monday, all of the 20 living hostages were freed, Hamas keeping up its end of Trump's peace proposal. The returnees were expected to be reunited with their families and undergo medical checks in Israel. The bodies of the remaining 28 dead hostages are also to be handed over as part of the deal, though the timing remained unclear. The Red Cross convoy in Gaza on the way to pick up hostages, and on the way back, likely with hostages inside, crossing the border from Gaza into southern Israel. Unlike previous theatrical releases staged by Hamas, when the hostages displayed affection towards their captors, these captives were being handed over without cameras. They were greeted by Israelis blowing horns and lining the streets waving flags. The hostages are then taken by helicopter for medical checks. Hospitals have specialist teams ready to care for the hostages.
Every returnee has a capsule of caregivers, a doctor, a nurse, a psychosocial worker, a dietitian, and they all take care of one returnee, and that's the same team that will follow him in rehabilitation also.
A wave of happiness across Israel.
Really excited. Like, I haven't smiled like this in, probably over 2 years at this point. And I'm also a little nervous, of course. I'm sort of bracing for what will come with it, how he will look, what condition he will be in, we don't really know.
The giant captivity clock at Hostage Square in Tel Aviv says 736 days. Israelis are hoping there is no need for day 337. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
As part of U.S. President Donald Trump's peace proposal, hundreds of Palestinians held by Israel are also being released. Nazvi Karim again.
Red Cross vehicles in Khan Yunis, southern Gaza, make their way painstakingly through destroyed buildings and rubble. They are reportedly on the way to an Israeli military-controlled area in the east, where they are to pick up Palestinians held by Israel. It's part of an exchange agreed by Israel and Hamas, in which Israelis will release hundreds of prisoners. For Palestinians, though, they are not prisoners, but also hostages. Around 1,700 of the 2,000 Palestinians being released were seized by Israeli troops during the war and have been held without charge since. Outside Khan Yunis Nasser Hospital, hundreds of Palestinians await the return of their loved ones. The hospital, flanked by Palestinian flags, had emergency service vehicles parked outside and chairs set up for the people at the event. Also among those being released are some 250 Palestinians serving prison sentences. Many are members of Hamas and the Fatah faction who were imprisoned over shooting, bombings and other attacks that killed or attempted to kill Israelis, as well as others convicted on lesser charges. Meanwhile, for hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza, the coming days are about returning to some semblance of normal life. Despite the return of humanitarian aid trucks, the struggle for food continues. While UN officials say that progress is being made, Palestinians say people are climbing aid trucks trying to take supplies. This man says everyone is attacking the aid that comes in. There is nothing we can do. We come to buy goods and we can't deal with the theft and we can't handle all that. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
The growth of China's global exports has hit a 6-month high as manufacturers find buyers in markets beyond the U.S., where a tariff deal with Washington remains elusive. Tracy Furness has more.
China's worldwide exports were 8.3% higher than a year earlier, surpassing economists' estimates, and the figure was markedly better than the 4.4% year-on-year increase in August. Exports to the US, meanwhile, fell 27% in September, as exports to the US have come under pressure from Washington's policies aimed at trying to get manufacturers to shift factories to America. In the meantime, China has expanded markets for its products in other regions such as Southeast Asia, Latin America and Africa. US President Donald Trump unveiled additional levies of 100% on China's US-bound exports after Beijing put several new rare earth elements under export controls and imposed additional scrutiny on semiconductor users. China's Commerce Ministry said in an online statement that China's stance is consistent and that we do not want a tariff war, but we are not afraid of one. Hours later, Trump used his Truth Social platform to send a message that may be seen as an attempt to back off from his earlier threats. On Air Force One, he again called President Xi Jinping a great leader and that they have a great relationship. It remains to be seen whether a meeting between Xi and Trump would materialize later this month and a broad trade agreement can come to fruition. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
The Global Women's Summit kicks off in Beijing today. President Xi Jinping delivered a keynote speech with 4 proposals to accelerate the process of women's all-around development. He also announced a donation of $10 million to a United Nations body, UN Women. Samantha Lee tells us more.
The 2-day summit aims to promote global pursuit of gender equality and women's development. President Xi Jinping attended the event with his wife Peng Liyuan. In Xi's keynote speech, he noted that gender equality has become a consensus across the globe, but is still facing persistent challenges.
共同营造
He proposed 4 suggestions, including jointly fostering an enabling environment for women's growth and development, cultivating powerful momentum for high-quality development for women's cause, developing a governance framework that protects women's rights and interests, and writing a new chapter in promoting global cooperation on women. He said Chinese women hold up half the sky and play a crucial role in the country's economic and social development.
行之苟有恒，久
Quoting an ancient Chinese saying, steadfast dedication yields an enduring fragrance. She calls for a better future where women can achieve all-round development. Meanwhile, he revealed that $10 million will be donated to UN Women over the next 5 years, hoping to help women across the world thrive. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
In the U.S., a helicopter that was coasting above popular Southern California's Huntington Beach on Saturday suddenly lost control and began spiraling in midair. The helicopter eventually lost altitude and slammed into a row of palms as stunned beachgoers looked on. Multiple videos posted online show the aircraft twirling clockwise above the beach and then plunging toward the edge of the beach, where it became wedged between a row of palms and a staircase near the Pacific Coast Highway. The Huntington Beach Fire Department said 5 people were hospitalized, including 2 who were in the helicopter. The department said the helicopter was part of an annual Cars and Copters fundraising event planned for Sunday. Still ahead, Donald Trump threatens to send Tomahawk missiles to help Ukraine. Pakistan and Afghanistan tensions escalate. Welcome back. U.S. President Donald Trump said he might tell Russian President Vladimir Putin that the U.S. could supply Ukraine with long-range Tomahawk missiles if the Russia-Ukraine war isn't settled. This as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed he had a phone call with the U.S. President over strengthening his country's air defense, resilience, and long-range capabilities. Tracy Furness with more.
President Trump's warning to Russia came while en route to the Middle East.
I might have to speak to Russia, to be honest with you, about Tomahawks. Do they want to have Tomahawks going in their direction? I don't think so. I told that to President Zelensky because Tomahawks are a new step of aggression. I might say, look, if this war's not going to get settled, I'm going to send them Tomahawks. And honestly, Russia does not need that.
His comments followed a Russian attack on Ukraine's power grid overnight, part of an ongoing campaign to cripple Ukrainian energy infrastructure before winter. Ukrainian President Zelensky said he had a phone call with the U.S. president where they discussed the Russia attack Friday on Ukraine's power grid that caused blackouts across the country. Putin escalated the situation at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, and Russia has also made its attack on energy infrastructure more vicious, Zelensky said. Trump in recent weeks has taken a notably tough attack with Putin after the Russian leader declined to engage in direct talks with Zelensky about easing the fighting. Trump's saying on board Air Force One, "I really think Putin would look great if he got this settled. It's not going to be good for him if not." Meanwhile, on the streets of Kyiv and in other towns and cities across Ukraine at 9 a.m. each day, police stop cars, schools stop, gyms and cafes go quiet to observe a minute of silence to remember the country's war dead.
Every day we are waking up. Sometimes we almost don't sleep, because we've been attacked. But every morning we are gathering together at 9 a.m. to remember why we are still here, for whom we need to be thankful for. And I believe this is very important to stop and to think about it, even wherever you are.
Tracy Furness, TVB News.
The Foreign Ministry in Beijing is very concerned about recent border clashes between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Dozens of fighters have been killed on both sides as Pakistan puts its troops on high alert. David Garrett reports.
Afghanistan's Taliban say they have come down hard on Pakistan's forces at the border in a retaliatory move. Our Mujahideen captured more than 20 posts, 58 Pakistani military were killed and about 30 wounded. 9 of our Mujahideen were martyred, 18 wounded, the spokesman said. After a request by Saudi Arabia and Qatar, we stopped fighting, but Pakistan again fired on Afghan posts. Last week, the Taliban accused Pakistan of bombing a market in Kabul. Pakistan did not claim responsibility but has targeted the Tariq-i-Taliban in the past. Islamabad says the alleged militants carry out deadly attacks inside Pakistan. Kabul denies this. This soldier described a fiery battle, saying it was necessary to kill soldiers from across the border so as to defend Afghanistan. The Pakistani army say they killed more than 200 Taliban troops and put their own number of dead at a much lower figure, about half of what the Taliban spokesman claimed earlier. Explosions and fire in the dark, with reports in Afghanistan's border provinces of fighter jets heard overhead. Some border posts have been destroyed, cross-border trade has stopped. China borders both Afghanistan and Pakistan and urged them to exercise restraint.
Pursuing economic and social development and jointly combating terrorism serve the fundamental and long-term interests of both sides. China severely hopes that the two countries will keep the overall picture in mind, stay calm and exercise restraint, properly address each other's concerns through dialogue and consultation, avoid escalation of the conflict and jointly keep both countries and wider region peaceful and stable.
Beijing says it will play a constructive role as it called for the protection of Chinese citizens and interests. David Garrett, TVB News.
The Nobel Memorial Prize in Economics was announced today, and it goes to 3 researchers for explaining innovation-driven economic growth. The recipients are Joel Mocher, Philippe Aguillon, and Peter Howitt. Mocher is from Northwestern University, Aguillon from the Collège de France and the London School of Economics, and Howitt from Brown University. The winners were credited with better explaining and quantifying creative destruction, a key concept in economics that refers to the process in which beneficial new innovations replace and thus destroy older technologies and businesses. Back locally, yet another lawmaker has announced his decision not to seek another term at the Legislative Council, bringing the total tally of present lawmakers departing from the LegCo to 10. Timothy Lee tells us more.
72-year-old Frankie Yick from the Transport Functional Constituency announced on social media this afternoon that he does not intend to seek another term in the Legislative Council. Yick, who has served in the city's lawmaking body for 13 years, said he made his decision after taking his family and fellow party members' views into consideration. This as he calls upon residents to continue to cast their votes in the upcoming LegCo election and allow for more younger members of society to participate in the legislative body. As speculation continues over lawmakers having to retire at the age of 70, Liberal Party Vice Chairperson Michael Lee said he was not notified about such a measure. He further noted the LegCo president and other departing lawmakers spent much time contemplating their decisions before passing the baton to the next generation. Currently, around 8 dozen lawmakers have reached the age of 70, including Regina Ip, Lai Tong-kwok, Lo Wai-kwok, Michael Tian, and Tony Tse. Meanwhile, the nomination period for this year's LegCo general election will start on the 24th of this month. About half of all lawmakers above the age of 70 have already announced their decision not to seek another term, including LegCo President Andrew Leung, Ma Fung-kwok from the Election Committee, and Tommy Chung from the Catering Constituency. 4 other lawmakers who have earlier announced their exit include Tik Shi-yoon from the Social Welfare Constituency and New Prospects' Gary Zhang. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.